I'm Carol Feuerman, Director of Development here at Shalom Orlando. We're so glad you are all here tonight to learn more about the present and the future of our campus, our community, and our mission. I'm honored to be joined tonight by three individuals helping to shape that future. We have Dr. James Larsen, Director of the Early Childhood Learning Center, Eric Robbins, our Interim CEO, and David Spalter, our Vice Chair of the Board of Directors. Unfortunately, Stan Rubens, who is the Chairman of our Board of Directors, is not able to be here tonight due to an injury, but I know he's with us in spirit. I'd like to begin. So I'd like each of you, if you could please introduce yourselves and share how you came to be part of the Shalom Orlando story.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm David Spalter, and I am the Vice Chair and future Chair of the Shalom Orlando Board of Directors. My wife and I have been in Central Florida for a little over 19 years. Both our kids went to school right here at the Jewish Academy. I changed names a couple of times. And sort of away from the building for several years as we became empty nesters, but then I got pulled back in as a member and later the chair of the JCRC. And then was asked to join the board, and I'm very happy to be focusing my attention to the local Jewish community once again, and hopefully we'll be able to do so for several years.
Thank you. James Larsen, the Director for the Early Childhood Learning Center. I've been here in Central Florida for 47 years, pretty much a good portion of the life. Went through school in the area, but I've recently just come out of public education. I've been in the public education sector for over 30 years, and I bring a different perspective, I think, but I'm also learning a lot more about some things that I wish I would have known younger in my career. I have 5 children. My 2 youngest also graduated from the JCC right here at the ECLC. It was the JCC at the time, and that was when I first became part of the community and the family. I remarried, and Lily was 2 when I met her, and so my schedule was such that I was the pickup and drop off, which was great. Back then I was the only dad that was able to pick up. Now it's changed a lot since a lot of online work, and we have a lot more dads that I see around, which is great. But back then I felt like I was the only one anyway. And then I have an 8-year-old as well that came through the ECLC as well. And so that's where I became part of the community and the family. And when I decided it was time to part ways with public education and retire, this opportunity opened up. It was a surprise. Probably for both, for Shalom Orlando as well as myself. And so it worked out. I think timing is an interesting thing. Things happen for a reason, and I now find myself here, having worked in pre-K through college, now rounding out my expertise and experience with our infants through 4s now, and really excited about that future. Eric?
I'm Eric Robbins. I come from Atlanta, but I grew up in Pittsburgh, but have a long history of being in Atlanta. I went there for the first time when I was 10 as a camper at the Jewish Community Center camp, which many people from this community was going to at the same time, so I felt like I had a little bit of a relationship there. And then spent my entire career in the nonprofit sector in New York, New Jersey, Atlanta, and really that's it. And then about a few months ago, I was most recently the CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta, spent about 8 years there. And then in my year off, which I'm not really off, I've been doing a lot of consulting and traveling and whatnot. This opportunity came up, and it really intrigued me to come here, and having experience both in the JCC world and in the Federation world, and really understanding what a good community looks like. Not one that I could point to, but I could point to parts of Pittsburgh, parts of New York, parts of Atlanta. None of them are perfect, but I feel like I have a good grasp of what good looks like. And this was an interesting, challenging for me, and I'm really having fun at it so far. So.
I'm going to begin with you, James. With your deep background in education and experience as an ECLC parent, what has stood out to you most since stepping into your new role?
So I would go back to when I first became a community member and a parent here. Lily came through the ECLC when it was very standards-based. It was worksheets, and it was structured, and it was what people considered preschool. And you won't hear me say preschool a lot. It's an early childhood learning center. For me, that means social emotional. It means developmentally, physically. It's academic. It's the whole package. Whereas when I think preschool, I think academics. So you'll always hear me refer to us as the Early Childhood Learning Center. That's what we are. And so Lily came through, and it was very structured. A lot of worksheets. You know, they came home. It was what you would consider what a lot of us grew up in, to be quite honest, especially if you grew up here in Central Florida or, say, in the Northeast with all of the state standard testing and things like that. When Olivia, my 8-year-old, was born, and we started her right off the bat here, that was when we were moving into the Reggio Emilia approach. And to be quite honest, I didn't know anything. I really didn't. I mean, I grew up with state testing. I worked in education for 30 years with state testing. Most of our parents here have grown up through state testing. And it really wasn't, I think, as communicated as well back then as to what the approach was. And then we hit COVID, so there was a lot of confusion. So I've got my poor 2-year-old with a mask on during the day and trying to learn. And so you walk out with a very different mentality, right? But the social emotional aspect that the school provided was amazing. She was able to adapt. She had that support from the community. And I think what I've taken away from my experience as a parent and an educator in public schools, and now really entrenched in what we're doing here, I'll tell you, I think we're doing it backward in public school. And that's the bottom line. And I was sold out to it. I was entrenched in that public school model. And I want to share that we do it differently here. So in public school, when you're talking about the standards and the testing and all of those requirements, there's a lot of anxiety for our children. And it's put on by the schools themselves. And really, as parents, I was guilty of it as well. When you walk in the hallways and you see the work on the wall, you always check out your own child's work, right? And then you look at other kids and you're like, oh, my child's not doing as well as this child. That's the gifted kid. Or you hang out with that one? So, there's always that competitive nature, right? And so I think what I've learned the most in the last couple of months is that there's a better way to articulate and to educate. And I've learned how to kind of describe what it is that we do that's different than what's happening in the public school. So in the public school, you have a need. That need is to pass a test, it's to get a score, it's to acquire a certain skill, and you better acquire it by the certain time or you're going to get a poor grade, or there's threats of retention and things like that. And we hope that when that need is out there, that the child's desire will match it. And the reality is they're not developmentally ready to match their desire to that need. And that's why a lot of our children struggle. And so that anxiety starts to continue to build through the years. Here, our approach, the Reggio Emilia approach here in the ECLC, is opposite. We create the desire that drives the need. And when you're talking about children, what do we say? Oh, I want to go out and play. Well, first you got to clean your room. So the desire to go play predicates the need to clean their room, and that's the better way to do it. That's the better order. There's an understanding. There's the desire is met. And so I look at my youngest, and I joke around. Many of you have heard, I'm going to stay 12 years old till the day I die. That's what it should say. I want to be 12. I still play video games. Some people read. I play video games. And when my daughter was growing up, before she could even sit in the little bouncy chair, she'd watch me play video games. And then it turned into, well, I want to play. No. Why? Because you can't read. This game requires you to be able to read. All of a sudden, the desire to play video games with Dad outweighed the discomfort of learning how to read. And so that need to read became something that was of value to her. That's what we do here. And I think I've learned better now to articulate that and see it from both sides. And I'm really excited about what we have right here with all the children.
Thank you. Eric, what has surprised or impressed you most about this community since becoming interim CEO?
Okay. Well, first, I'd have to say the philanthropic community. It's real. You've got incredible philanthropists here. And I learned about that even in Atlanta. Like I ran into someone who does external affairs for Delta, and not Jewish guy, used to work at AirTran, lived here. And we were chatting. I told him I was coming down here, and he brought up, Harris Rosen. Said he's the Tom Cousins of Orlando. Well, that's a pretty high compliment. I mean, there's, and to hear that he's Jewish, which Tom Cousins is not, really made me feel good. And I met many others since then and heard. So there's a tremendous philanthropic community here, which is great. The staff here at the JCC and at Shalom Orlando and at the Federation, however we call all of that, and the other professionals I've met in the community are also, you've got really dedicated professionals and really great people living here. I think the board, obviously, and their commitment, I mean, they're caring a lot. I mean, poor Stan, I don't know how he does it, but, dealing with his injury now and, juggling a million different things, and that takes a tremendous commitment. So I think all of those things, and a sense of community and a sense of history here. I mean, there's not many communities you go into. I was at Teresa's house last week where there's, books that people have written about the history of the Jewish community. This is a unique community, and it's a really special community that I think there's a lot to work with here. So I think those are the things that I feel the best about.
Thank you. David, as you prepare to lead the board, what gives you the most optimism about where Shalom is headed?
Well, I would also echo what I've seen from the staff and the people who work here. There's a real commitment and dedication that goes beyond just, it's my job. People want to be here, they believe in the mission, and I think that as a board, we need to cultivate that. We need to make it clear to the community what that mission is, so that we get the same type of enthusiasm from the community that we see in the people who are here every day. If you look on our website, which we're very happy has been updated and modernized, there's a word that's prominent, and it's hub. And I think that is the one word that I think, to me, as historically, I've been on the board for a little over a year. I was not on the board during the merger. So I had to, like many people in the community, learn what does this mean? I know what a federation is, and I know what a JCC is, but what's a Shalom Orlando? Well, I think that word hub encapsulates it. You have a federation, which is a unity of organizations for a common purpose and with common goals, and sharing resources and ideas and trying to get to the same place. And a center is a place. It's a physical brick and mortar place where we actually come together as human beings instead of on these things. And I think that that's what Shalom Orlando is. It's the combination of those two things, and the aspiration to be both a physical hub and an organizational hub for the entire community. And if we can take what we have in a small staff of people in this building and communicate that mission to the community and get people excited about it, I think that's how we're going to get where we want to be.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. James, back to you. What are you most proud of in our early childhood programs, and where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth or innovation?
Okay. what I do want to keep my fellow panelists, you know, I don't want to take all the time here. A lot to be proud of, to be honest. But the fact that there are still teachers that have taught some of our parents is something to be proud of. That's a loyalty to the community. It is just a presence to the hub, to the fact that we are a family and a community within ourselves. And the passion that they bring every day to a non-stop environment. Nap time is not even a stopping environment. It is a non-stop environment, and I'm proud of how hard they work and what they're bringing to the table, and I'm proud of the shifts that they've made even in the last couple of months under our leadership. We've started to really focus and highlight some aspects that from my meetings with community members, parents, teachers, that they're thriving for. And so we have an increased idea of what the Judaica should look like in our classrooms. And that's become a focus, and we're seeing it firsthand, that there is that revitalized feeling that we are a Jewish early childhood learning center. And we do not need to apologize for that. And we have children here that are non-Jewish, and we don't need to apologize. You know where your child is, just like I knew where my children were. And so we need that presence to be deliberate, and it needs to be out in the open, and we're seeing a lot more of that from our staff already, so that's exciting as well. As I look to the future, things that I'd like to see innovative that we want to move toward, we can have a Reggio-inspired curriculum and still focus on those developmental academic skills that they need moving into kindergarten, wherever that may be. And so we're putting in our studios a very strong literacy component. That will be more deliberate as you see it. And we will connect those skills through Remini and through our communication, which is another ping point for me as far as growth, to utilize our communication avenues to say, here's the skills that we're doing. It's not just, you know, your children are beautiful, and we want you to see your children, and we want you to see what they're doing during the day, but we also want you to see how it connects to the curriculum and the developmental skills, so that at home our parents are able to capitalize on that. And so we'll see a lot more of a specific literacy piece. We'll bring in STEM, and we'll start to see some science and technology that we'll bring in. Again, Reggio-inspired. It's not to change our approach, it's to build upon that approach and to utilize that approach in ways that can accentuate that curriculum. We've talked about aquaponics, and gardens should be more than just a garden. We're looking at sensory gardens where we'll be doing herbs that are, you know, within our culture and that we use during our celebrations, and have it be, you know, in touch with what really needs to happen. And so you'll see a lot more from our community reaching out to the community about our connections to the academic, the social emotional, and the physical developmental skills that we expect our children to have.
Thank you. Thank you. Eric, what do you see as your biggest accomplishment in your previous community, and how do you think you could implement that here?
Phrased another way, is sort of what my superpower was. I think that if I look back on my 8 years in Atlanta, first of all, Atlanta too was sort of a way for me to give back to that community, because I felt like I had gotten so much from that community. And I just wanted to sort of leave a lasting legacy there. And if I had to define it looking back, first of all, it wasn't a community that played together so well. Look, we have many of the agencies you have here. The agencies didn't necessarily talk to each other. People replicated things that they were doing. There wasn't an opportunity for people to share ideas. So right from the start, I created an initiative called the Front Porch. It took about 9 months to do. We all came together. We meditated together. We studied together. We visited each other's sites. We visited organizations that we could learn from, everything from Sephora, from a marketing perspective, to the National Christian Association as an idea of philanthropy, and just went through a whole journey together. Then we went to Israel together, our chairs and professionals, 70 of us went there for 10 days together. And we all changed that dynamic pretty quickly, and we all started to work together more closely, and it really changed the feel and the dynamic of the community. The second thing that I made sort of a priority too was a sense that everybody was involved in the community. I mean, federation sometimes can be, there's look that people feel outside the federation, and we worked really hard to say that no matter what the level of your gift was, you were important to the community, and people really felt that. I mean, our campaigns grew in the 8 years that I was there, and people felt more positive. You measure that through different mechanisms. People felt that the brand was more positive. So just sort of changing that brand, rebuilding trust, collaboration. You all have this already, so you don't have to do this, but the TOP Foundation, we have a representative from TOP here in the room. I put a big spotlight on the Jewish Foundation of Atlanta because it sort of was understaffed, it was underutilized, it was undermarketed, and we really grew that because I see that as a real opportunity. As collective giving becomes less popular, people are more likely to be part of a foundation, whether through their donor advised funds, whether through their planned giving, and then you can influence where they give their money to. And I think it's the future, so I'm glad to see that we have it, and I love that we have it with 2 other communities, because there's strength in that. Why should each community have their own? So that's something I probably won't have to, at least we have one thing to work with. The other thing is I built a really strong team. It's not easy to do. It takes years to really get the right professionals together and to really get them focused and to get everybody rowing together. And when I left, we had a strong team and we had strong leadership, which is what I'm going to help do here hopefully as well, to do that. But also leadership that's not just about themselves, but about the whole community. And about building bridges, doing things together, raising money together, not territorial. I think those are all things, and just building excitement that it's a community where everybody is welcome, regardless of their affiliation, regardless of their economics, and I think these are all things that I would aspire to at least help build a foundation for.
Thank you. I think we've got our work cut out for us. David, you've helped shape our Campus 2030 strategic plan. What is a top priority for you, and how do you see us achieving it?
Well, the strategic plan was largely developed through meetings of our leadership council. And some of the things that Eric's been talking about, that is how we've been trying to bring the community together through leadership council. If we're going to serve the community in the way that our strategic plan states that we're going to try to do, we have to have the community's involvement in telling us what they want. And we're doing that through our own little Knesset. Representatives from lots of diverse groups and communities and parts of the geographic spread of Central Florida, as well as the spread of different organizations and religious affiliations. We have Orthodox to Reform, everything in between. And when we come together and we share ideas and we say, what does this community need? What can we all do together? Each one has their own agendas. We know that. Each one has their own budget. Each one has their own concerns and people that they're trying to serve. But there's also a common goal. And if we can come together, as we have been doing once a quarter through the Leadership Council, and figure out what are our common interests and how can we work together towards them, that's how we're going to be able to implement our strategic plan. So it's something that's been going on for a while, and sometimes being a leader is just continuing the good things instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. So I think that's something that needs to be continued and cultivated and fostered and expanded. And I think that if we're able to do that and make the different organizations through their representatives that they send to our leadership council feel like they have a say and that they're part of the process, I think that's going to bring us together as we're trying to achieve.
Thank you. This question is open to any of you. What do you see as the biggest opportunity for Shalom Orlando in the next few years? Who wants to take it? We'll pass that.
That hand went up quick.
I mean, I guess my best analogy would be at this point, I feel like we have an incredible, and I'm not just talking about this facility, but as a community, this tremendous house that just needs to be renovated. The bones are really good. I mean, even in this facility, I mean, look at it. It's sitting exactly where you would want it to sit. It's in the middle of a Jewish community, not the only Jewish community in Orlando, and that's a challenge. Not a challenge that you have alone. Most cities have that challenge, but you're sitting here in the middle. You have a history here. Regardless of the fact that this place is in serious need of improvements, it has the bones of what could be a tremendous campus. You have key ingredients of a successful community, a day school, a JFS, another community center in the vicinity, all the organizations, Pavilion here and Seif Road here and the others that I'm not going to go a larger Chabad community, and I don't know if you're Chabad, you may or may not be, but I know that's big. But we have it all here. How do we get it all to sing together and to really say that Orlando is going to be an amazing place to live and raise your children Jewishly? And I think all that is here. We just have to figure out why it hasn't happened or why it stopped happening. And frankly, I haven't seen anything yet that says, like, okay, if I didn't see there was capacity in this community, I'd say, okay, we can't do it. Or if I saw that there just wasn't any facilities or anything, I'd say, we can't do it. Or if I saw there wasn't leadership, I'd say, we can't do it. It's all here. We just have to figure out what's getting in the way and stop looking back and look forward and figure out how to get there. So I have a lot of hope, and it's going to take forward thinking. It's going to take leadership commitment. It's going to take some dollars. It's going to take some partnerships, but I think it can be done.
Sounds very optimistic.
Not easy.
Not easy,
Boy,
no.
not easy.
If it was
Not
easy, everyone would do it. James, families are at the heart of our community. What are you hearing from parents and children about what they value most here in our community?
So I'll tell you that from day one, it's whoever wanted to come chat, and I've met with a lot of families in the first, especially that first month. Families that are currently with us, families that have graduated out, families that have left and made other decisions and other choices for their education, and trying to take all of that in. And what I might have said from the first couple meetings is very different than what I would say now, 2 months in, and having an opportunity to become more ingrained in everything that we're doing. And I would tell you this is what I hear a lot. I went to school here. I still have friends that I went to school with. We were counselors at Camp J together. We were lifeguards at the pool, and they're lifelong friends. And it's been very important to me over the last couple months to get outside of our hallways, and I spend as much time as I can connecting to the other portions of the building. That we can't be in silos. To build a community here, from what Erica just shared, for us to do that, we have to be in partnership with one another. I spend time talking with Tara Harrison in programs. How can we help each other, and how can we work together Zippy with the PJ Library, and how can we connect those two pieces. And Dr. Bracha in the GJA, we spent a lot of time, we're connecting our schools there as well. So thank you for being here. And I would share that we need to create that environment again where that's not something that you would ever take for granted, but something that is celebrated within our community, which leads into and really feeds what Eric was just saying. We want to grow to be that community here right in Orlando where we are the best place to go, where we are that attractive Jewish community and value the cultures that we all have, or to value the culture, I mean, you know what I mean. I don't think that came out quite right, but you understand what I'm saying. We need to be the cornerstone of that. We value our children. We honor our children in our culture, in our community, and that starts in our school. That starts in the Early Childhood Learning Center. And so what I'm hearing from parents and families is that we want to bring that back. And the more we can do that and the quicker we can do it, then the quicker that the building becomes revitalized. And we can continue to grow at that point.
Thank you. David, what role do you think donors and community members play in shaping the future of Shalom Orlando?
Well, obviously we are very reliant on donors to support us. And I think that the writing of checks is pretty obvious, but I'm more interested in knowing the ideas. The people who are inclined to spend their resources on Jewish causes. As chair, which I will be in a little less than a year, I'm going to start every conversation with a question. What is it that you're looking for from us? What is it that you want us to provide to you? I know what I want to sell. I know what I want to bring to the community. My personal lens is I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Broward County, which is one of the more concentrated and large Jewish communities in the country. I went to Tufts University. Half of my freshman dorm was Jewish. Not so anymore, but back then that was the case. So that's what I was used to. I was used to it being sort of normal to be in a Jewish community and just sort of taking it for granted. And moving to Orlando, where it's a sizable Jewish community, it doesn't have that same feel. But that's where the challenge and the aspiration comes from. That's why I'm interested in doing what I'm doing, because I don't want to be, oh, well, if you're Jewish and you want to move to Florida, South Florida, this place. No, I want it to be here. Why shouldn't it be? What is, other than history, what do we lack? Nothing. We have everything that we need. But the people who have the checkbooks, I want them to tell me, you have a vision, David, and let me tell you how I think you can get there and how I can help. And then I'm going to try to give them what they ask for. I don't have all the answers, but I hope I have the right questions, because that's where I think I can get people to help us get to the place that I think we all want to get to.
Thank you. Eric, what do you see as your most important role in helping Shalom Orlando move into its next chapter? And we only have one mic in this place, I'm sorry.
To buy more mics.
Yeah.
First, look, I come in objective, and I have a lot of ideas, and a lot of them I'm not going to share yet, because some of them are half-baked, and I haven't spoken to the board about many of them yet, so it wouldn't be fair to sort of put my ideas out there yet, but I have them. They're already circulating. And I think my role is to give options. I'd like to leave this board with several options of how it could certainly address the deferred maintenance of this facility, how it could invest in the professional team that is necessary to run a facility like this, how we can increase collaboration and connection across Orlando, not just in this part of Orlando, but how do we build bridges to the other agencies across the community? Look, we all have this. None of us, we're living in a world right now, a Jewish world. I say that, you know, I'm 60 years old, over 60 already, and I've never seen the Jewish world changing so much as we speak. It's in a blender right now. We don't know what's going to be on the other side. I was fortunate, like many of you, to grow up in probably the best Jewish community of all of Jewish history. I mean, here we were living in America as free Jews and doing whatever we wanted to do, and our Jewish identity was such a part of us, and Israel was thriving, and you know, and we all went to Tufts, and half the, you know, that's changing. We don't know how it's changing, but we have to adapt to that change and figure out what the future needs to look like. So I want to leave some thinking about that. We have to think about, look, the Federation here, don't take this personally, but it's more or less decimated. And I'll spin that in a positive way and say it's a chance to rebuild a modern Federation. You know, I struggled hard to keep that campaign going in Atlanta. I mean, I'm not saying it's insignificant when you raise, you know, $25 million a year, but it is every ounce of everybody's effort to do that. And I'm not sure it's the best use of everyone's effort. Do not tell the Federation world that. Because I think what you could be doing is building connection between the organizations. You could be helping to set a vision that everybody buys into. You could be dealing with things that not every agency should be doing on their own, like we do now with security, like we do with lobbying, like we do with some insurance, things like that. There's opportunities to build a federation from the bottom up, and eventually, with trust and with a sense that it's a servant leader-driven federation, people might want to campaign again. Because they'll say, you know what, let's let them figure out. And by the way, you already have the foundation part of that, which is also a key ingredient of a future federation, in my opinion. So yes, we have a problem, but I think it's an opportunity to, and I want to set the foundation for how we might do that. And I also want to help identify a leader. Everything comes to leadership. And I think that, you know, and please don't take this personally either, but I have to say it, there clearly has been a lack of leadership somewhere along the way. This doesn't happen without some flaw in leadership at some point along the way. And I don't want to see that happen again. I want to make sure that we get the right leaders to move this organization forward. And the ones that are new and the ones that are on the cover of the magazine are those leaders. So shout out to the magazine. I want some.
Your money's coming.
So we're getting there, and we need to do more of that. But leadership is everything, and I'm looking at the interim at Holly. You got a rock star over there in Emily too, and I think that we're, you know, the fact that she and I are both in this community helping says a lot about Orlando right now, and I think we can help set it in the right direction.
Thank you. Throwing this out there, if anyone could share any recent story or a moment that captures what makes this community special.
I'll be glad to take that, or you can take
Go,
one.
you could both, you could each do one.
do one. Do a quick one.
I do a quick one. I love stories and I don't do quick. I got to tell you, so I was at the Raise event, Rachel and Lauren, and that was a great event a week or so ago. And I sat between Lee Austin and Barbara Chasnoff. And I have had the fortune in my career to have worked with both of them in Orange County Public Schools. And I say this because Barbara and I only worked together for about 13 months. And it was quick, it was fast. It was November 15th of 2006 when I started working as the principal of the school where Barbara was the media specialist. And I'm driving on my first day as principal. I'm gonna save the world, this is it. I'm gung-ho, ready to go. It was a high-need school. And I'm driving in, and it's morning, and I'm revved, and I was so revved that as I was coming down Dr. Love Road, which I always thought was interesting to put a school on, Dr. Love Road, and as I'm getting ready to pull into the school, it's right at the end of the street there, there was a police officer sitting in the bushes off to the right who pulled me over in the school to give me a speeding ticket as I sped into the facility that morning. And I thought, man, that's just terrible timing. I work in the school district. I just blew through the school zone. I didn't even realize I was ready to go. And so that morning, it was Wednesday, because it was they announced on Tuesday. It was a Wednesday morning, and we're having our first faculty meeting. This is the introduction. This is your new principal kind of thing. And I told him, I said, listen, I hope I'm the principal here for a long time. I said, so when I say this, please understand that that's my goal. But the next time you do have a new principal, y'all got to email him and tell him there's an officer that sits in the bushes over here, because he was hidden. It was a motorcycle officer. I said, yeah, I got nailed. And they said, oh, we saw you sitting out there with the lights going in front of the school. I'm like, welcome to the show. And you know what? And so this is how I met Barbara. Barbara walked around with an envelope to all the teachers to try to raise funds to pay for my ticket. And I said, Barbara, no, that is not the first thing I need from the staff. And I got to know her pretty well over those 13 months. And I knew her to be a very compassionate, empathetic, very caring, and very genuine individual. And I just thought that was Barbara. Because at the time, I was not in the Jewish family or the community. And I saw her as an individual, and I saw her as a very special individual. And then, as I moved into, you know, the values that I've learned here with our community and family, I didn't put the two together. And then here I am, and here's Barbara. And we're just like, what? Are you kidding me? And I'm thinking to myself, it makes sense now, because it's what we value as a family. It's what we value as a Jewish community. And it just brought a full circle for me. It was like, you know, that this is the real part of being there for each other. And she didn't know me from Adam, and she's gonna put herself out there, and it's a small thing, but it was a big thing. And I just have to tell you, that's why I'm enamored to where I am. That's why I do feel like there was a time to be here, and that this job presented itself at the right time for me, because it's just, that's what I value. I value that in people. And so it was a really interesting full circle moment just a short week and a half or so ago.
Great. Last week, Carol and I had the opportunity to meet with Samra Gottlieb, the name on the Gottlieb School, and I meet a lot of donors in my career. I mean, I do it all the time. We just sat down, we were chatting, and I was blown away by that woman. I mean, her story, her commitment to this community, her commitment to Jewish education, her understanding of why it's important and why Jews have valued education and continued to do what we do, and how we've survived as a people. I mean, she got it, and she lived it, and she was ready to get behind it with her own philanthropy in a significant way, and it doesn't get better than that. So that was my highlight here.
Thank you both for those stories. I'm deciding which one next. When you look 5 years down the road, and this is for any of you again, when you look 5 years down the road, what do you hope people will be saying about our impact then? You want to take that one?
I'll take a shot at that one. Perfect for him.
Because he'll be here.
We hope so. Well, imagine, if you will, there's a large city in the Northeast with a really big Jewish population. Let's say they elect a mayor that maybe makes some people in the Jewish community want to move somewhere else.
Oh, wait.
I mean, this is hypothetical. If in 5 years, this is a destination community for people who are looking to relocate and find the right Jewish community for themselves, for their young family, for their young children, their older children, and they come here and this building looks as good as the website, I'll feel pretty good about the 5 years that we spent getting there. And I think it's doable. I think, you know, as Eric said, the bones are here. I think that we have if you had a beautiful building and people who were not enthusiastic about the Jewish community, that's not going to last. But if it's the opposite, which is where we are, I think, that's where you can really grow. We have the roots, we have the right people, we have the right attitude. We just have to bring it together and find that common purpose and make the people who want to move here, not just for the tax benefits, say that Orlando, that's the Jewish community, that's the hot Jewish community that I want to move to. I want to be part of this. And when I get here, Shalom Orlando is there, and that's how I get connected, I get integrated, I find out where everything is, and that's seamless. That's what I'd like to see in 5 years.
Thank you. Anybody else, or is that works?
Yeah, I
that
think
works.
that worked out well.
Well, thank you for your very thoughtful answers. I get to work with these people every day and hear from them, and I've been so optimistic, and I wanted everybody else to hear from them to see why we're so enthusiastic here. I would love to open this up for questions. That's why we're doing it in this conference. Michael, you go first. Oh. And I hope people have questions. I mean, we tried to cover a lot with our questions. Maybe can you just
stand up? Yeah, thank you. I mean, 4 great speakers. It's wonderful diplomacy. But on to the specifics. Eric, can you speak about your experience in Atlanta? And let me understand the history of a Hebrew high school, whether that exists, whether divisions are possible, again, for fundraising, legal, real estate, medical divisions. And what concrete plans we have for specifically on a year-by-year basis as far as beautification of the facility. There's
Right.
one room, I think, to start with.
Yeah, for sure. No. So I think first of all, yes, there is a Hebrew high school in Atlanta. It's a great example. It's the Weber School, and it was the dream of a few people that just said, we need a high school in Atlanta, and made it happen. I give them a lot of credit. It wasn't easy.
Let me make sure I want to understand you. What I meant by Hebrew high school is what we had here years ago was a place for students who go to
Oh, that's different. Okay.
public high school and
Okay.
then congregate together
Okay. Right.
for education, for social.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
that's what we're talking about. Did that exist?
That does not exist as far as I know. Some of the synagogues do it for their post-bar and bat mitzvah, but there's not a communal one. We had one in Pittsburgh, where I grew up. We did not have a communal one in Atlanta. So that was question 1. Question 2 was
The divisions.
the divisions in the campaign.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
still work. Especially women. Lion of Judah, phenomenal. And you have, by the way, another asset. You have 70 women in your Lion of Judah. For a community this size, that's a lot of women in Lion of Judah. So that's an opportunity. It worked with real estate. A lot of young people in real estate in Atlanta. It was a good way to get younger people. The reason it worked is if you're young coming to Atlanta and you want to break into real estate and you have a chance to play with the big boys and hang out and talk to them, then you're going to get engaged in that, and that worked. Medical, not so much. We tried it, didn't get a great turnout on that. Tech, a little bit. We were building it. So it works. It doesn't work across the board. At least it didn't work for us across the board, but it worked for some targeted pieces. In terms, and then your other one was with this facility.
Yes,
I mean, I have ideas. It's going to be a multi-stool approach to this facility. We got to fix it. I mean, you can't defer maintenance a whole lot longer. By the way, I walk around every day and see some things that aren't as bad as I maybe thought they were, but yes, it needs a significant investment of capital, and we're gonna have to figure out how to do it. If we can't do that, then we got a problem, but it's gotta be part of the plan, not just the capital, but we also need to rebuild the staff. Otherwise, we're just dying a slow death, and that does nobody any good. And we're more than that. We deserve more than that. Look at this facility in the midst of this community that is a middle class, community, and the facility looks like it's still in the 70s. We got to change that. We're better than that. So it's not going to be a silver bullet to fix it, but I think with some smart people and in a community that says enough's enough, let's figure out why we haven't been able to do it, what's gotten in the way, and then let's figure it out. There's a few different options to hopefully do that.
Any other? Can you stand up so everyone can hear you? Thanks, Marnie.
Oh, sure. Hi, I'm Marnie. Nice to meet you all. James, you alluded to, not even alluded to, Reggie and Amelia. Last year, my twins were probably in the most tumultuous class in the school. We went through 4 teachers in 9 months. And Eric, you had alluded to professional development as something that maybe could cross community, which would be amazing. I'm wondering if you can actually speak to, ECLC, when I would hear about it, was like the crown jewel. I actually went there way back when. And I'm curious, like, what is your plan? What are your thoughts about how to bring it back? Not necessarily to what it was, but in terms of reputation and advancement, and so that we can really start to, use that as a starting point for families.
Sure.
Yeah, let me use the mic on that. All right. So I'm going to take you back to our first planning when they first showed up. We all came back from the summer program and we started. The first thing we talked about were words matter. And we talked about the fact that we're not a daycare and that we're not going to be a preschool, that we're going to be an early childhood learning center. And we talked about, to reach the level where I also knew to Jay to be at that time was going to take almost like a rebranding in a sense. We could say based on a survey in the past that we were always rated as the highest preschool at that time in the area, and I do believe that we in a lot of pockets we still are, but we're not communicating it as well as we should. But we do need to train, and we need to train on a couple things that I've really focused on. And so there are folks that sit here and I do talk a lot, and they'll tell you with love that I talk a lot. But I've said the same thing because I want the same message to be shared. And one of those messages, especially within our approach, which is different than years ago, there's that old idiom that's saying of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that is the most false idiom or saying that exists in all of time as far as I'm concerned. That is not true. If you put salt in their oats, they will drink. So what you do is you have to find the right motivator and the right motivation. So you can't control all the variables, but what you can control, you must. And so our job as educators and working with the children is to create that salt for them, to drive that desire. And then once that desire is there, when they want to drink, then we need to give them a bigger pond to do it in. And that is where we're really working our CLTs, our curriculum meetings, on how we're bringing those developmental skills to the forefront. And how do we build on it? And not to wait for a child to tell us they're ready to do something, but to salt those oats and to give them the reason to want to do it, like I did with my daughter. You want to play, you got to read. There are so many ways to salt the oats, and our team is working on that with our staff. We'll be doing a lot more professional development with our teachers on how to do that, and then how to capitalize on it when it's there. We're providing, or we will be providing, a lot more opportunities for the literacy that I shared and the connection to mathematics and science that maybe hasn't been so prevalent. But at the same time, if we're not communicating with our families what developmental skills we're working on, then we're not maximizing what we really have, and that's our community, that's our strength, right, is our family and our community. I read a book years ago, well, I was forced to, it was for work, but it was, I think it was called Narrowing the Achievement Gap, and it was a green book, and it was about that thick. It might have had 60, 70 pages in it, and I could have summarized that book into maybe 4 words, more time on task. No matter what you do, the more time that you're putting into the work, the greater the children are going to develop. And that's where you can see homework kind of really take a shift. We were talking about it at the last board group, where you could see homework through time has really developed in a different way. So in the 60s and when we were starting Sputnik and we were going into that realm, and I remember the thing that I forgot that night, there was a lot more homework. There was a lot more focus on math and science because we wanted to. And so we created that focus and then we made strides. And then in the 70s, we got a little bit away from that, a little bit more free love, a little bit, less homework. Everybody needs to have more fun, play, and that kind of thing. And then the 84 came around. It was A Nation at Risk, was I think the one that I messed up on. I was calling it, what was I calling it? So then in the 80s, it came back in, and all of a sudden homework came back up. It's the same philosophy for us. We have all of the pieces. We've just got to make sure that we're focusing in the right direction and focusing as a team. There are some, again, great examples that we have to build on. And when you have 2 and 3 teachers in a room, there's no reason why we should not say, hey, go take a look at what's happening in room 2. We want you to see what's happening in room 2 because there's some valuable things that you can bring back to room 1. And we need to start modeling those things. I do think we don't have time. The urgency is their children, and they're growing as fast as they're growing, and we don't have time. So we have to take care of what we need to take care of now as we grow to that same reputation. But if we're not communicating the right things, and we're not talking about how the developmental growth is actually, is becoming fruitful with our children, then we're missing the boat, and we don't get that time on task that I was going to refer to with narrowing the achievement gap because we're not asking our parents to support that at home. And a lot of our younger parents don't know what to do to support them at home. They're not educators. And if you haven't grown up in that world, you don't know how to support the work that's happening during the day. And it doesn't have to be sitting there and writing letters all day. There are many ways to developmentally grow their skills. And you'll see our communication really hone in on that for our parents. But there is always room for growth, and we'll continue to develop our teachers and have meetings with them and to build on their craft.
Thank you, Ned. Anybody else? Any questions? Really? Oh, I knew that would happen.
I would like to have a question.
Okay, that's all right.
I have to figure out how I'm going to explain this. My name is Amy Schwartz-Kimlin. I used to work at the JCC. I was the marketing director for almost 12 years. And so I love what you said, David, about Orlando having an opportunity to be a destination community. I think there's like a lot of upheaval in the Jewish world, both between the United States and Israel, and then within the United States. And I think that people are looking at Florida like, I'm not ready to move to Israel, but I'm going to come to Florida. So I do think we have a tremendous opportunity. So I'm curious, like, have there been conversations with that strategic goal in mind? How you imagine those goals going? I think there's some real serious gaps in the bones of our community. In order to attract people, we don't have an investment in young adults, so people can't get married. There's no community Jewish middle school, there's no community Jewish high school. We've kind of abandoned or like downplayed the JCC, which is how people find us. I think these are all like real critical problems. So I'm curious, have conversations like that happened, or are these things that are mentioned?
The conversations absolutely have happened, and we've, through the Leadership Council, have started some initiatives of how to welcome new families to the community and to introduce them to the resources that are here. And that, I think, is a great role for Shalom Orlando to be really at the forefront of. But you're right, there are gaps that need to be filled in. And if we're going to provide everything that a young Jewish family would want, we're going to have to grow areas, and again, we're not going to have a Jewish high school overnight, but maybe more, as we were talking before, programs for high school age kids. And these things do exist in pockets through different organizations that are under, to some extent, our umbrella. And if we're not providing it, we should at least be helping market it. We should be helping direct people towards it, because we are an umbrella organization for the entire community. Yeah, it's a big task. It is. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of things we do have that other communities don't. You know, it's leaving the friendly confines of Broward County. A branch of my family moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I saw what a community that doesn't have anything, you know, looks like. So we're between the two, and you know, we need to make sure that when people are looking at this community and moving to this community, that they're able to plug in and find the things that are here, and to make their voices heard, to help us build the things that aren't here yet. So yeah, it's absolutely something we're talking about. You know, I'm just one employment lawyer who is learning this as he goes, but you know, and I say that not as an excuse, but really as an explanation of what the lay leadership of this organization looks like. We all have something in our backstory that we try to bring to the table to help strengthen our board and our leadership council as a unit. You know, I don't know anything about how to fix a building. You know, I had a house that was a fixer-upper for a few years, so we sold it. I had no interest in that. But I do know how to ask people, what's your goal, and how do I get there as quickly and as efficiently as possible? Because that's what I do for a living. And I know how to say, if people are in conflict, not how do I win, but how do I end the conflict in a way that's satisfactory to the parties. That's what I do for a living, and that's the approach I'll bring. And you can ask any board member what their backstory is, and I think you'll get a similar type of answer. If we're going to build up things so that we are that destination community, then all of the pieces need to bring what they have in their backstory and their experience to the table, and think, how can I apply that experience to this problem? I think when we do that, we realize that we're greater than the sum of our parts.
And I would just add, I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about, and I love your vision of where we'll be in 5 years, but your community study that you paid a lot of money for says you have 50,000 Jews in this community. So, I mean, it'd be great to attract a bunch of New Yorkers. Be careful what you wish for. But you don't need to. You got, look, I'm looking around this room. You've got young parents with children. You've got empty nesters. You've got some older people. You've got people that still have adult children who have come back. It's here. We need to meet the needs of this existing community, and we can, and celebrate that when we do. And when people see we're doing that, then they may come. And a big driver why young people might come, I hate to say it, is not what we do, but it's jobs. I mean, Pittsburgh, nobody was coming back to Pittsburgh in my era, but now everybody's coming back, but not because of the Jewish community, because of the tech jobs that are there. So some of that's out of our control.
Anybody? We're good. I do have one. Thank you everyone. Yeah. I have one. We have on the back table. We have a lot of flyers out there about upcoming programs, events, things that are going on. We'd love you to take a look. But there's one I especially want to let you know about. We have somebody from the Israeli Embassy in Washington. She's the Minister for Public Diplomacy. Her name is Sausan Nator Hassan. Sorry, I messed up the name. If there's Israelis here, I apologize. We can't, because of security, we can tell you it's on Sunday, September 28th. I can tell you that it's at 2:30 right here. We cannot have anything in writing go out for security reasons. They're being really, really strict about it. So we're allowed to say it verbally. That's why I'm telling you, not just telling you to pick up the flyer. But if you go on, there's a QR code on the flyer if you'd like to register. I think it'll be really interesting. She will be able to talk about Israel, what's going on. More than that, I don't know, but I think it could be worth all of our time to come hear her. It's right in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur on that Sunday. So you will have to, I know some of you came tonight without registering, that's fine. You will not be allowed in. Their security will be so strong that if they don't have your name at the door, you will not be allowed in. So please register for this, and I wanted to let you know. Thank you again for coming. I hope you learned about what we're doing, and if you have any questions, let any of us know, and we'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you.